package on the program today. It was questions and more questions as stakeholders in both the government and private sector appeared before the House Ad Hoc Committee investigating the power sector preparatory to a holistic review. The committee asks why the federal government is expending billions of naira after privatization, who is to blame for the poor performance, and the age-long question, is electricity a commercial product or social service? Fundamentally, the committee sought the current status of loans, payments and debts. The CBN and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation are yet to avail the committee with documents. The Ministry of Power, Ministry of Finance and Bureau of Public Enterprises gave insights into the roles of their establishments in the power sector reform journey.
Very happy and glad that we are given the opportunity at this time to brief this committee on the activity of the power sector, which we know is with the intention of actually ensuring that the power sector move forward and most of the challenges do resolve. As stated in the letter sent to us, we are asked to make a presentation on NEMSA's functions and powers and responsibilities, facility and institutions under NEMSA, the agency challenges and way forward, and any other additional information and NEMSA future requirements. Actually, I would like to state that NEMSA is established by its Act to carry out the functions of enforcement of technical standards and regulations, technical inspection and certification of all categories of electrical installations and all electricity meters and instruments to ensure the efficient production and delivery of safe, reliable and sustainable electricity supply in the Nigerian electric supply industry and other allied industries. NEMSA statutorily within that Act is empowered to enforce all statutory technical electrical standards and regulations as published by the Nigerian Electric Regulatory Commission and all other statutory bodies for the power sector. I will start by saying that I'm going to give a summary because we have actually stated all the requirements as directed by the letter, but I would like to actually state that when the DGP was actually making his presentation, he alluded to the challenges that actually occasion the instability of the grid and the networks, which actually, one, say is due to redundancy, which is true in the transmission grid, but more than that, it is actually due to a lot of issues and challenges when we have heavily overloaded 33 kV primary feeder lines network, where you have a line that actually has been designed to carry 25 megawatt and we have a load of almost 50, 76, 80 megawatt with several point loads. And at the same time, to look at the scenario of when we talk about ATC&C losses, which instead of going down from our experiences, all these are actually growing. And we've looked at all these, and in view of doing what our Act has said in line with the enforcing the regulations as made by the regulator, we have actually tried as much as possible to ensure that we stand the tide of all these challenges. We have actually issued some enforcement directives to ensure grid stability, safety requirement, continuous increase, deterring continuous increase of AT&C losses, and also frequent losses of power equipment. Among these enforcement, one of them is we've actually issued an enforcement directive to ensure that all 30 kV power systems are with a minimum size of conductor of 150 mm ACFR, because before now we have even some people using 70 mm, 100 mm, and then the quantum of power carried is actually limited. As a young agency, we are growing, and we need to actually ensure that we increase from the 19 inspectorate field offices we have to at least try to cover a larger part of the country are closer to the people so that we can serve them better. In terms of providing manpower, and all this will require additional support in terms of providing funding and ensuring that actually the agency is getting to get hook on and do his job. I remember recently when we had a visit of the oversight of the Power Committee, we actually had some advice on how to ensure that NEMSA will become self-sustaining. We are already in the process of actually trying to develop a blueprint of the sustainability of the agency. Basically, the agency will need a lot of funding in terms of buying equipment, so as much as possible we can regularly be in touch with technology, because every day the testing technology, equipment required are changing, and so we actually require funding that actually enable us to keep in touch with what equipment that is required to deal with all these issues. Finally, I want to say that NEMSA would like to thank the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee on the investigation and review of activities of the Nigerian power sector for giving us the opportunity to make this presentation. We are committed to ensuring quality enforcement of technical standards and regulations in the country for safe, reliable, and sustainable electricity supply and safety of life and property. Hence, we would like to appeal to the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee to consider and recommend for the provision of adequate funding to this agency in order for its effective coverage and bringing the services closer to the Nigerian populace.
They say that these new meters run faster and their lifespan is shorter. We don't know whether NEMSA, in fulfillment of your statutory responsibilities, whether you test all these meters before they are deployed to the market, as that is one of your responsibilities to test electrical equipment. Another question that comes to mind, looking at your duties, there is NEC and there is Nigerian Standard Organization and then NEMSA. Do you sometimes have some conflict with these other organizations, or is your part well drawn out? And how much have you come out distinctly so that a Nigerian who is who have a challenge with an electrical fitting knows who to go to, whether it's NEC or NEMSA or Nigerian Standards Organization, Standard Organization of Nigeria?
Why did NEMSA not seed facilities like the central stores at Oshodi, Lagos, Port Harcourt and Kano to other departments and the agencies like TCN, or even send them to the discourse who may need to store back equipment from material there? And two, how does NEMSA utilize these stores and even the chemical and engineering laboratory at Ijora, Lagos?
I have a personal experience of having to buy meter for 220,000 twice within 5 months, and they are not working. So what effort are you doing since you assume office? How many meters have you tested?
We have tested 2,753 meters. Actually, the schedule for the meter set provider scheme for 2019 was 1,038,000 electric meters. But because of the challenge of the initial challenge they had with, with custom tariff, the meters are not coming. But as of today, we have tested over 2,750 meters. When we come to the question of, say, the meters are not working, what I only say is we'd like to know where is the place so that we can actually go and look at it. Because I want to explain that there was a time that the House actually did set up, I think it was a resolution, that the meter provided by one of the meter providers were not working. And the then House mandated us to go and find out.
MD, you didn't understand the question.
I did, sir.
No, you did not.
Okay, sir.
We are here to help you. So speak out. I'm your committee chair.
Yes, sir.
We have 774 local government in Nigeria. Am I correct? Out of this local government, in how many local governments do you have representation?
We only have in 19 states because we are state chairs.
So that's what we are saying. So you don't have the capacity. And every village there is a bulb or a plug or electrical something that you should be certifying. So if you are only in Duse, what happened to people in my village, Burun Kudu? So please don't argue. Request for how to improve your work. I once tell you in one meeting that you can be as big as NABDAC. And we don't have to pond you. You can pond yourself. You can generate a lot of IGR for federal government. You use 75% and you give federal government 25%. So please take note and correct. So write to the committee and bring up a proposal on how you want to generate IGR or employment. You see, you alone can employ 774 electrical engineers. Don't be compressing yourself. You should be widening it. I wish the minister was here because we need to look at this NAMSA. This NAMSA is a critical organization. Your work is a matter of life and death to certify that all the electrical appliances we are using are of correct quality.
The last question about the central stores. Central stores were part of the asset which actually were ceded to EMSL before it became NEMSA. So those facilities are actually part of our city, which will form part of our IGR base going forward. Then the chemical and engineering lab, that is within the mandate of NEMSA, we are actually responsible to check all the chemicals, all the insulation oils that they are using in the power industry. So it is being properly utilized. It's only that we have just one, which is in Lagos, and we have the intention of having one in Jos. We already have testing laboratory site. The question about NEP and SON are their conflict. By the act setting up NEMSA, actually, I don't see any conflict, and we've never had any conflict with SON. And the area where, because our act actually stipulated, NEMSA is to enforce all the codes and technical standards and regulations as made by the regulator. So it's very clear. There is no conflict between us, and we've never had any issue with SON, because SON actually has been working collaboratively without any issue and any challenge. Then, we said that the meters are running very fast. We need to go and verify that. Because if a meter is tested in the lab, because there are two procedures. We do type test. Type test to show whether the quality of the meter actually is properly made to meet all the requirements. So as to ensure that we don't buy meter off shelf and bring it to Nigeria to do. We have to check it with the requirements of Nigeria in terms of temperature, in terms of humidity. After the type test, when you now bring larger quantities, we do what we call sampling routine test, which is in line with international best practice. The 10% is tested out, and then this will now certify that lot of meters. If when we are testing you are doing the routine test, if a percentage is more than 5% failure, it means we increase the number of meters to be tested. Instead of 10%, we go to 15%. That's how we graduate it. But by the time we get to about 20%, then it means the whole of that batch is actually cannot be used. And we have similar cases where we have actually discarded the whole batch of meters that have been brought. But there are instances where some meters will come, and the meters actually have tested them, and they are installed, and the challenges will come. What we now do is that we go and verify them, ensure that the disco and the person, that's the consumer who actually has the challenge, will be present for us to test those meters and show what is the effect, because there are substantial requirements in terms of the limits, which variance you can decide whether the meter is good or not.
MD, let me just get one thing clear. From the point of importation, I'd like to get where, or an arrival at the ports, or distribution to shops, or at installation usage. At what point do you do this monitoring and evaluation, as it were?
We have two levels of testing. Before the supplier contemplates to even bring meter to Nigeria, you need to come and you need to bring the meter for us to carry out type test verification. He will not even manufacture, he will not even ask to produce. He will bring samples of them, we'll test them. That's what we call it type test certification, because it has a series of tests. It takes about 21 days to complete that test, to show is the material they are using, the installation, are they correct, the terminal they are used, are the terminals okay, and then after we have given you type test certificate, then when you now bring the large quantity to be deployed, we will now need to test 10% of that large quantity to find out whether the meter we are now supplying meet that same quality requirement that has been approved under the type test. So, but after that, once you have given the approval for the routine test that the meters are okay, you deploy. But there are issues people will raise it to say my meter is running, then we then need to go and verify and find out actually what is the issue and the challenge.
The Rural Electrification Agency is the agency of government that provides rural electricity to underserved and unserved communities in the country. We do that through various projects, with our capital projects that concentrate more on grid extension, supply of installation of transformers, street lights, sub-injection points. Then we also carry out projects with the Rural Electrification Fund, which is the fund of the federal government of Nigeria that provides opportunity for private sector investment to come in, bring in money into the sector and build mini-grid solar home systems on behalf of our communities. In addition to that, we also currently administer a $550 million grant subsidy from the World Bank and the African Development Bank, as mentioned earlier by the Honorable Minister. For that program, it's also run as a performance-based grant, where the private sector companies are currently partnering with private sector companies where they build mini-grids and they supply solar home systems, and they are able to now access this fund as a grant when their projects have started performing for over 3 months. In addition to that, we also run the Energizing education program, which is a program of the federal government of Nigeria for 37 universities nationwide, which have been done into 3 phases. The first phase was done fully funded by the federal government of Nigeria, while the second and third phases are currently being funded by the World Bank and the African Development Bank. So in terms of the projects that we currently have, I think the details have been provided in some of the submissions that we have done to the Honorable Committee. In terms of some of the challenges that we currently have is in terms of executing and completing our projects. So as the Honorable Chairman will recall, during our oversight visit, we did crave the indulgence of the Honorable Committee of Power to see if we can have a very short National Assembly retreat with the Honorable members, just so that we can guide them and show them the kind of reach we have within the Rural Electrification Agency, and we're able to design projects that are able to see the day of light and finish from inception to implementation. So with that kind of interaction, we are able to guide and bring projects that would actually bring the necessary development to your constituents. Also, in addition, we want to strengthen our monitoring and evaluation of the projects that we currently have, both in terms of auditing, understanding what projects we have on ground, because as you see in that bulky report, there are a lot of projects that we have actually inherited, some as far back as 2006 from the former ministry, because we were under the ministry before it was made an agency. So some of those projects, we actually inherited them as at how they are. So some of the things we like to do is to see how we can bring all those projects to a conclusion. Of course, we continue to ask for capacity. We want to build an organization where today, if they say, which are the top 5 agencies in Nigeria. I want REA to be mentioned. So we are currently working on those kind of processes where we can attract the best talent in the country and be able to deliver a mandate because there's currently a lot of global attention on the REA, especially given that most of our projects are very relevant to the sustainable development goals of access energy for all, and also to continue to encourage private sector participation because in terms of the kind of capacity you need to run those projects, you need very, very good talent in REA to ensure that we're able to grow the market. As you have heard the whole day today, part of the issues that we have in the electricity sector, money has been spent a lot in that particular sector, and the kind of thing we're promoting is to enhance private sector participation so that all the money doesn't only come from the government. The government money is only being used to stimulate private sector investment. So for instance, with the programs we have for the Nigerian Electrification project, what you find is that with the $550 million infusement to the private sector, it can actually give birth to over $1 billion of investment. Then we also continue to ensure, or would like to continue to ensure sustainability of our projects. These are some of the things we are trying to strengthen now in terms of coming up with some cooperatives that would run these projects. Then the final thing would be office accommodation to be able to take out all these programs that we have. I think we also spoke with the honorable chairman on that in terms of some of the challenges that we are currently facing between our office, the head office, and the zonal offices that we have nationwide. But I think in terms of the challenges, there could be more, but just to summarize, these are the ones that I've said to you.
How do you determine which areas these mini grids are sited in view of the fact that large percentage of Nigerian communities are not connected to the national grid?
Which schools, which institutions have benefited so far, which are still on the plan? And how do you determine where to go to? And as a committee, would like to perhaps see one or two and see on ground what you have, and then your sustainability plan for them.
What are the sources of the Rural Electrification Fund, REF, and how are they being referred, and who is in control of that funds?
In view of the fact that a lot of areas in the country are not connected to power. As some of my colleagues are here, the EDRF, we currently run a program with some of the development partners and even the Nigerian Space Agency, where we are currently working on a GPS mapping where we are identifying these communities scientifically and understanding exactly where we don't have electricity here in Nigeria. But that work, of course, is ongoing. However, depending on the program that you're thinking about, will determine which of the locations are going to be selected. So I'll give you an example. With the Rural Electrification Fund, what you find is that we do our own studies and hand over some of these communities that we feel are underserved to the developers. But because the developers are meant to run these projects as a business, we give them the locations and they come up with a business plan onto how they can be able to make money from that particular community in terms of having a willing buyer, willing seller arrangement because most of the mini grids are less than 1 megawatt, and it allows the NERC law allows the developers to go into those kind of agreements. Of course, we also do our own study, so there are other projects where we have selected sites that we have collected via most of these studies that we've done for the least electricity cost distribution. So some of the things we want to even encourage, as I mentioned earlier, is to share some of this data with the members of the Honorable House so that they can see for themselves where some of these projects are actually fully needed and corroborate collaborate with some of your own or boots on the ground experience, corroborate that information, so that once we're putting projects in the budget, we know that those projects are sustainable and they're actually going to the areas that need them. So I hope that answers that first question. So the second question, if I recall, is about Energizing Education program. So this program is the federal government's own program, where initially there were 37 universities chosen, and the mode that these universities were chosen was just a simple one per state metrics, and they were chosen in terms of having 37 institutions and also 9 federal teaching hospitals in Nigeria. So we have a list there. For the first phase, we have 8 universities and 1 teaching hospital. As I mentioned, those 8 universities were fully funded within the federal government budget. So some of those universities for the phase 1 include Ahmadu Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, BUK, Makurdi Federal University of Agriculture, Federal University of Petroleum, Delta, Federal University of Ebonyi, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Anambra, then Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital, then University of Lagos, and Usman Danfodio University Sokoto. So I can submit the comprehensive list of that, which I'm sure within those 200 pages, I'm sure you've actually listed it somewhere. And as I mentioned, these first phase are all funded through the federal government budget, while the second and third phases are currently funded through the World Bank, which has 7 universities, including University of Calabar, University of Abeokuta, University of Gashua, University of Maiduguri, then Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna, Michael Okpara University, and then the University of Abuja. And the third phase, you have University of Oyo, then University of Lafia, then University of Dutama, Modibo Adama University, Yola, then Federal University Technology, Owerri, then Federal University Technology, Akure, Federal University of Lokoja, and the University of Port Harcourt. So at the moment, the 2 universities have been completed. BUK has been completed, and the University of Ebonyi has been completed. We are currently undergoing a comprehensive plan for commissioning. The reason why you have not heard us, honorable members, is just because we had this COVID pandemic. However, given some of our principals are beginning to commission things virtually now, we also want to exercise that kind of opportunity to see if we can invite you, for some of these commissioners. I hope that answers that question. So the third question, if I remember, the third question is the sources of the Rural Electrification Fund. First and foremost, is funded through the national budget initially, and also we also collect some revenues through the NERC fines and some grants and donors from some international development agencies. And those projects, as I mentioned earlier, form a grant system to enable or to encourage private sector investment within the power sector for serving the underserved and unserved communities in the country.
I'm very much concerned with the kind of bills you produce. I give an instance whereby I allocated 30 million naira to a project for electrification of a hamlet. But unfortunately, you come up with a very mighty bill that you propose a 500 kVA transformer and use 150 mm aluminum conductor, which I was, which when I raised a query, I was explained that it was a consultant that did that. So I will want to urge you to please come up with a very reasonable way of coming up with your bills. Because most of the time we'll discover that our money is being wasted. Federal government money is wasted in coming up with a bill that you have virtually no reason. If you give me 5 million naira, I will be able to do that work that you spend 30 million to do it, practically. And instead of going to a hamlet and propose a 500 kVA transformer, that will be a very much wasted. something of 50 kVA, or at least if the electricity authority maybe said rural electrification to start with 200 kVA, it's okay. But I see no reason why you should propose a 500 kVA in a hamlet of maybe less than 100 people. So please, those consultants, charge them very well so that they will not be wasting our money uselessly. Second issue is the issue of this university solar project that I know we commissioned Bayero University. I was there when it was commissioned. The issue of Bayero University solar issue. I think the chairman was there. I was there too. I will want to know from you, because even some 6-7 months after commissioning, that place could not produce the much desired goal it was meant for. So I want to hear from the MD whether now the people of UK and the university community are really enjoying that project, because for most of the months after commissioning, I'm sure you can testify that they were unable to tap the resources that is meant for them. So these are the two questions that I feel the MD. It's not even commissioned. It was commissioned that day, but we were on generator. Yes, we were on generator. We were there, the vice president was there. But even after 6 months, I was relating with the works department of BUK, estate department per se, and they were confiding on me that the project is yet to be commissioned. So we want to know from the managing director, that BUK issue, whether those money